virtues are basically traits and attributes that Christians should have to like be a better Christian, and just ways that we can improve ourselves.
Okay. So to start off, the first and most important virtue or commandment that we have in the Bible, when Christ was asked, was that he told them was love. So love of God, love all your God, all your mind, all your soul, and all your heart, and then love your neighbor. So that was the greatest commandment, was to love God and then to love your neighbor. And in our life, we should have this love, and Christ showed us what kind of love we should have. So we read that it says, "For God so loved the world, he gave us his only son." So he loved it so much that he was able to sacrifice his only son. So this side of sacrificial love is the love, the kind of love that we need in our lives, and we need love. It's the basis. So every virtue that we have, or every service that we give, should be practiced.
So the next virtue is humility. Humility is the foundation for all the other virtues, and it's basically knowing that you are a sinner, knowing your faults, and that you're not perfect. And that is especially hard for a lot of us in this day and age because we're proud of the gifts we're given, but we don't realize that those gifts are given by God, and that it's not us that have it. It's like God working through us. So we need to be able to understand that. And this image shows the king getting down from his throne to like be with the people, and that shows like how important humility is because it helps you connect with others and have a better connection with God and improve in your spiritual life.
And then the next virtue we wanted to mention was chastity. So chastity, there's of course chastity in the body, so keeping your purity, your virginity, that's an important part of chastity, but the more important part that we wanted to bring up was chastity of your mind and of your heart. So Timothy was a young disciple of St. Paul, and when he wrote to him, he told him to flee all youthful lust, all the lusts of this world, and then to pursue righteousness. So the only way that we can keep chaste in our mind is to pursue God, to pursue our righteousness. So when we pursue God, we're able to keep the righteousness, our chastity in our mind, and also in our body.
So sobriety is very similar to chastity by definition, except it's more of a broad term. Since chastity is more related to sexual immorality, sobriety is more related to all thinking of sin, basically. So there's sobriety of mind, which is thinking of sin, thinking of doing bad things such as sexual immorality, and that is that's not a good thing. So sobriety is abstaining from that. There's also sobriety from material substances, and in the letters of St. Basil it says, "The Christian ought not to be enslaved by wine, nor to be eager for flesh meat, and as a general rule ought not to be a lover of pleasure in eating or drinking." So especially now, you see a lot of people being addicted to things such as drugs, alcohol, things like that, and we need to abstain from that to be pure in our body as Christians, in addition to being pure in our soul.
And the next virtue we're going to talk about is dedication. So Christ explains to us that you cannot serve two masters. So you cannot be in the church and serve in the church, and also you cannot go in the world and also do stuff there. So you have to choose one, pick one, and you cannot be empty as well. So you have to pick one, and then you have to stick with it, because you cannot do both at the same time. You can't serve two masters. So in our service, we need to be able to understand that if we're serving God, then we're serving God. And we serve God through the talents He gave us. So all of us have different talents, and we need to be able to use them in the best way that we can. So the talents, they're given by God, so we need to be able to give that back. Multiply, 10-fold, 80-fold, 100-fold, and be able to give that back in our service.
So the final virtue we're going to talk about is patience, which is really important. Romans chapter 8 verse 25 says, "But if we hope for what we do not see, we eagerly wait for it with perseverance." So nowadays we trust more in things that we see rather than things that we don't see, and we need to be able to be patient with God because He has a plan for us, and we need to remember that. We see this with Hannah and Eliakim. They were always praying to God for a child, but it took a very long time for them to actually give birth. So we learn from them that we need to be patient and know that God has a plan for us.
So to conclude, in the beginning, Hasiat mentioned that a virtue was a behavior or a behavior and a habit that we need to help us to be closer to God. So to expand on that, when we don't have these virtues in our life, they're replaced by vices or bad habits that we have. So for example, one of the main virtues we have here are love and humility. So if we don't have love, then we are very easily overcome by pride. And that is a very hard stepping stone, as we see in a lot of our church history. So these virtues, we need to be able to practice them, and then we need to be able to be humble enough again to know that we can't do it by ourselves. So when we try to develop these virtues, it's something we develop over time that we have to work toward, and our work is not enough by itself. We need to be able to ask God for help. Through prayer is how we develop all these virtues.
Great.